One question that comes up on the hospitality and catering paper that's worth quite a big amount of marks, usually about 8 marks, is the role and the responsibility of the environmental health officer. I've got a summary here of some key points from the exam board of misconceptions, and you can see that they actually list one of them as being the role of the environmental health officer. Food hygiene rules when preparing food has been covered in the other video that's actually loaded on here. The exam board comment was that students still are not understanding the role of the environmental health officer. Their comment is it's imperative that candidates understand the job of the environmental health officer. Some apparently are only stating elements related to that they check hygiene and safety or they give ratings. Very few mention giving feedback to businesses or that they actually investigate complaints. And within investigating complaints, they take photos or samples, which mean in overall that the mean mark for the question for this one was 2.8 out of 8. So they're demonstrating clear lack of understanding of the EHO by a large number of candidates. And we see that quite a lot in our school. One typical mistake in the exam is check that the question, check it's asking about the role or the responsibilities, or as you're going to see in the next example, both, and knowing what the differences are. So for example, past question here, describe the role of an environmental health officer. That doesn't want lists of words. Describe will mean a description, sentence form. And then name and describe 2 responsibilities of the environmental health officer. That's worth 4 marks. So you would identify the responsibility and then what that entails. Then you would name the second responsibility and what that entails. There are some key words here that you can practice with writing a paragraph form or sentence, or sentences using these keywords. Now, some of these words are roles, some of them are responsibilities. You can now, if you want, test yourself, write them down, pause the video, have a go at writing the paragraph, or maybe even just identify in 2 columns which words are roles, which ones are responsibilities. When you've done that, you can move on to the next screen. So I've identified here which ones are role and which ones are responsibilities. Be worth checking if you're correct. And then maybe re-looking at how you've written your paragraph using these keywords. Essentially, the role of environmental health officer is to keep people safe. It's to make sure that premises are providing food that does not make people ill, that by doing that they're following food safety and hygiene rules, and they will have to check routine inspections to make sure that places are safe for people to eat. And the worst issue would be that they are there to follow up a complaint because somebody has become ill through eating food at that premise. The responsibility is the list of all the different things that they will do when they're in there checking, what they would expect to see. And you'll see them on the next slide, which is the mark scheme. So in relation to the question that you saw earlier, the role, 1 mark would say that EHO officers inspect premises to make sure they are safe and hygienic. That is essentially the main aspect of what they do, but that would only get 1 mark. To get the 2 marks, they would also be saying that they're doing that by following or making sure that businesses are following standards, and then they will award premises based on that. Responsibilities are all of those lists there, a very extensive list. You only have to name 4. There are some issues there that you may never actually remember to learn, but you must learn a minimum of 4 to 6. The obvious ones would be things investigating an outbreak of infectious disease. They would possibly take someone to court, so legal proceedings, taking photographs to assist with that. One of the main roles of environmental health officer, or responsibility, of environmental health officer, is to carry out routine or unplanned visits, again to check health and safety legislation. You might not remember that they would need to take water samples, especially things like to improve public swimming and bathing areas, because your main focus will be to remember an environmental health officer walking into a restaurant. So just think of the main things that they need to do to make sure that a premises are providing food safely that does not make customers ill. And by doing so, they're following procedures correctly.